Hey guys, it's Warren here, and today I'm going to show you how to make your very own wooden planter box out of a pallet. Seriously, some people would spend like 25 quid on one of these in some shops, but it literally only costs about £2 to make in materials. Win-win! Okay, to start you'll need a couple of planks of wood from a pallet, a tri-square, ruler and pencil, a mitre saw or a mitre block, some sandpaper and some wood glue, some corner brackets and some screws, a drill, saw and screwdriver, a container to fit in your planter box and some plants, and some flat wood. Now, to start with, we need to cut our first 45-degree angle on a piece of pallet wood. So, if you're using a mitre saw, set it to a 45-degree angle and trim off the end of a piece of pallet wood. Alternatively, if you don't have a mitre saw, you can use a mitre block and a saw to cut the angles on your wood. So, with the first piece of wood cut, we're going to measure it out so our box is big enough for our container. On the side of the wood that has the inner side of the mitre joint, lengthways line the container up with the inner joint, then mark its length on the wood. Now we want to cut a 45-degree angle on this line in the opposite direction of our previous cut. So flip your wood around with the inner side of the previous mitre joint facing upwards and then make the cut with your saw. Great, so you should now have a plank of wood where the inner length is the length of your plant container. We now need to make another piece exactly the same size using our offcut, which should already have a mitre joint on it. Take your cut piece and line the longest edges up with your offcut and mark with a pencil. Now use your tri-square to transfer that measurement onto the other side of your piece of wood. Now you'll need to measure the width of your pallet wood, and this one is 1.5 centimetres. You'll then need to measure this distance away from the line you've just drawn towards the mitre joint on the other end of the wood. You can now ignore the first line you drew, and to note, your plank should now be positioned with the previous inner mitre joint facing upwards. And now simply cut your 45-degree angle on the line we've just drawn. Great, so we now have two pieces of wood where the inner length is the length of our plant container. And all we need to do now is repeat exactly the same process, but this time for the width of our container. Again, start with an offcut so you've got your initial angle cut, and then you should be left with 4 pieces of wood, 2 to the size of the width and 2 to the size of the length of your container. With everything cut, show your pallet wood some love by giving it a sand, then apply some wood glue to your first joint. Now, carefully and on a flat surface, attach the piece of wood with the glue on to another piece of wood on the joint, making sure you're matching up pieces cut to length with pieces cut to width. Next, take some snazzy corner brackets and decide how many you want on each corner. Measure where you'd like your brackets to go, then screw them on whilst firmly holding the wood together. And if you're struggling, a couple of G-clamps and a block of wood will help keep your wood tightly together whilst screwing on your brackets. And now the frame of our box is done, we can now make the bottom. So get a flat piece of wood, and here I'm using 6mm MDF, place the box on top and draw around it. Also mark the inside of the box with the MDF so you can match it up once cut. And now simply, using a saw, cut the MDF out following the lines you've just drawn. And now to attach the bottom to the box. Flip the box upside down and apply some wood glue to all the edges. Push the bottom down onto the box, lining it up with the mark you made earlier. And to secure it in place we'll be using screws. So mark out where you'd like your screws to go, bearing in mind the width of the pallet wood. Then carefully make some initial holes using a drill for your screws to go in, which will help stop the wood splitting. Once all your holes are made, put your screws in using a screwdriver, and these ones are about 1 inch in length. Once everything's fixed in place, wipe off any excess wood glue on the outside and inside of the box, and then the moment of truth. Check your container fits. Hurrah! And now for the final touches. Because we're using pallet wood, there may be some joints that are a little bit out of place. Simply sand these down to make them nice and level and smooth. Also remember to sand down the edges, corners, between the brackets and on the bottom of the box as well. And if you're left with any gaps, don't panic. Simply fill with some wood glue, level it off and then sprinkle with some sawdust, and then sand it down once the wood glue's dried. And finally, put your container full of plants into the box, and there you have it. A simple to make homemade wooden planter box. Now if you loved the look of this project, remember to give this video a thumbs up. You can check out more of my recipes and DIY videos by clicking on one of the videos appearing on screen here, and subscribe by clicking on the picture of me just there to be notified when I upload new videos.